What's going on, YouTube family? Astinosis here, coming at you with another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. Now, I want to do this because I've had a few friends try and join the game, and then I try to point them to the direction of, new player tips and tricks and such, and a lot of that stuff is currently outdated. I don't think that I have seen one in probably at least a year or two, and there has been so many new changes to the game, and I felt like this was necessary. I felt like this should be something that I do to help out the community, help out my friends, get started with this awesome game that we all love and enjoy. Now, the first thing that I want to point out is that you are not going to complete everything as a brand new player. The likelihood of you completing a Lufenia, especially as a brand new player, is very low, simply because you're not going to yet have the roster. And I will cover a bit more of that in a moment, but just remember that it's okay if you don't beat everything at first. Eventually, you will. Second thing is to read the in-game notices. That's essentially the video game's manual, and it's giving you all the objective facts of what happens in this game, what changes are being made, and what's available. And third, what I feel are the most important tips: research everything. Don't just take my word for it, or your favorite YouTuber's word for it, or your favorite streamer's word for it, content creator, or whatever. Do the research, read the in-game information. There's also other resources available. The Tonberry Troop, they pump out a bunch of good information on their stuff. And then also there's the Dissidia DB. I use all of those things extensively when I want to read up about what a character is, what a character does. It's super important. Now, the other thing I want to point out too is make sure that you save this number right here, because if you lose your account somehow, you get a brand new phone or something, and there's something happens, then your account is gone forever. Now, in order to combat that, of course, the easiest way as a secondary measure is make sure that you connect with one of these. Like, granted, for me, using an iPhone, I have Game Center. I don't know what Android has, but make sure that you back up your data, because if you upgrade, you gotta wipe your phone or something, accidents happen, you have your account safely stored. Now, let's go ahead and get into the actual game itself as we continue these new player tips. Now, a thing to note is once you get through that tutorial, because one of the first things that the game is going to force you to do is the first chapter, part of the first chapter rather, and eventually you're going to get to the point where you can do your first summons. If I recall correctly, it is a generic board that I believe the units that you can get gold weapons for would be Warrior of Light, Rem, and Vivi. Now, this is not the banner that you really need to concern yourself with. So, once you get through that tutorial, and we're going to just bring that up, once you get through that tutorial pools, you're going to have these 4 banners currently available to you. Now, what you should do is reroll to get at least a couple of LDs if possible. Now, the one that I would actually prioritize the most in this case would be Rude. The reason being is that support characters are typically the most valuable. That doesn't mean that damage characters and such aren't valuable, but a character like Rude is still used for a very long time and will last you. And not to mention, Yuffie is actually able to cheese certain Lufenias. Like there's that skeleton one where it's got the carriage and she throws back the debuffs and it just kills itself in like a matter of a couple of turns. So what I would do as a brand new player is, at a minimum, try to get all of Rude's kit, with that minimum being the LD. And most might disagree. Now, this one would be kind of tricky because I'm, uploading this video as of today, January 2nd, so you have 2 days to get Kieran, but Kieran is not a character that I would sleep on. His auras are incredible, and he does a fair amount of damage. Now, when you're pulling, you gotta look at characters that complement each other and synergize with each other, and sometimes they also make up for each other's disabilities. Now, as an example, Vivi, while he's not currently available, he reduces your party's HP when he does his LD stuff. So that can be considered very bad in some situations. So a character like Rude, being a healer, will make up for that weakness while still maintaining his ability to chunk out some damage. So that's super important to think about. Other examples of good synergy would be Lena, Kieran, and Wool, for example, because all that extra eye brave from their auras will make Wool's shields enormous. Now, obviously I know that Wool is not currently available. He will return on another banner, so there is that. Now, when you're pulling for these characters, as a new player, you have a ton of untapped content to farm. You're probably sitting on well over 1 million gems. Like if you've seen Soul's stash, he's got almost 2 million. That's because he's very stingy with his pool. If you don't know who Soul is, check him out. He's an awesome content creator, but he's got a ton of resources, and that's because he's very selective with who he pulls on. Now, when you're aiming to pull for these guys, and these kind of go hand in hand with each other as I'm talking about, you know, prioritizing your pulls. The Lost Chapters are going to give you the fastest gems, because when you finish a Lost Chapter, you automatically get an extra 1,000 gems. And if I recall correctly, that is for both when you clear the normal mode and also the hard mode. The earlier Lost Chapters are going to be much easier to get that full completion on, because the introduction of Cosmos and Chaos difficulty, and then later on Lufenia, did not come until much later. So to show you what I'm talking about, because for those of you who are just like, hey, what's a Lost Chapter? Well, when you go to your quests and you pull up that button right there, these are all the Lost Chapters currently available. Now, if I recall correctly, and I don't want to give out bad information, so I'm going to scroll to make sure I know what I'm talking about. So as you see here, the Lost Chapters that first had a Chaos and Cosmos difficulty is Fang. And you know this because of these little symbols right here. Those are the pages and the nuggets that you need for something that I will talk about later. So essentially from Leon and prior, that is a lot of Lost Chapters. Now, the Kieran one is here because it's currently ongoing for another 23. Oh, so you actually have less time to pull on his banner than I realized. So if you want Kieran, if you want that kit, you're gonna have to pump out some farming. Now, next on the list, we're gonna talk about the event quests. So at the top, you're gonna see the current events, raids, whatever that's available. Now, to start off getting those gems up, when you get these cycle quests right here, these are now permanent. When I first started playing this game, we were limited on which one we could do. Matter of fact, you could only do it 10 times. So now, when you're farming your crystals, you can do it at your leisure, and each first clear of each of these, and completion, will give you gems. As you see right here. Free gems. Free gems just for you. Now, the other thing that you want to do is complete the Mog's gym and the Mog's, both Mog's gyms, because those are going to give you special tokens to go here. Boom. Now, personally, I have obviously already collected everything, but just to give you an example of the things that you can get, I will show you the history. Oh, that's weird. Okay, I guess not. I guess I can't do that. Well, that is unfortunate. But, well, that is okay. We're going to move on. Now, to point out your pools. Now, as you're pulling, you want to try to get at least one copy of each weapon that you're going for, each banner. And on that note, unless you absolutely do not care about that character and never plan to use them, you can go ahead and sell that weapon, but the general rule of thumb is never sell a weapon that is not max limit broken. And there's a couple of ways that you can tell that a weapon is max limit broken. I am unsure if I'll be able to showcase because I think I cleared out most everything. But for example, these weapons right here, if it was max limit broken, the color changes. And then when you max limit break them for realization purposes, they become, oh my god, I forgot how. So they go from gold to this kind of bluish color. And then when you realize them, which I'll cover a little bit more in depth in a bit, then they become purple. And then the way to tell that you have them, that passive, for example, this right here, you see where that little red check mark, that means that I have the passive. And it also, if you bring up the weapon, it shows it right here as well, that I have that. So if you see that, you can then do it. Now, in order to max limit break an item, because for those of you who don't know what that means, is I'm not actually going to do it, but what you do is you go to a weapon. Say we'll use Sephiroth here as an example. Now, there's content that's going to give you these power stones. As you can tell, I have a ton. When you sell a weapon that is not max limit broken, you get 1 power stone. If you sell a weapon that is max limit broken, you get 4 power stones back. Now, to do this, you would go, and it requires 12. And each limit break, and there's 3 levels of limit breaking, as you can see right here, requires 4 power stones. So for a full completion, you need to do 12 power stones. Boom. And then from there, you use these orbs, you just use auto, and then if you confirm it, boom. As you see, it'll be maximum level 35 out of 35, and then the CP is also upgraded along with all the stats. At that point, if this is a 15 CP or 35 CP weapon or an LD weapon, you can sell it. Now, conversely, with the EX Plus weapons, as you see here, for example, matter of fact, I can actually, I think, showcase this one because I do not think that I sold it yet. Where are you, Cloud? There you are. So now that I have Cloud's burst weapon, I can then unlock this, his fully realized weapon, and get back 20 nuggets. Boom. Nice that I was able to showcase part of it. Now, the next thing I want to cover, with those cycle quests that give you the crystals, you're only going to actually want to prioritize at first because eventually you're going to get lots and lots of them. But to start out, it's okay to prioritize the characters that you're actually going to build. Now, bear in mind, however, that the higher the crystal rank they get, that enables you to get more points. More gems, I mean. Because every 10 levels, character levels, you get 100 gems. So basically, if you do, I mean, I suck at math, but you know, we have currently over 100 characters that can get that all of them can at least get to rank 70 and level 70, or excuse me, not rank, level 70. We have a few that can make up to 80. That's a bunch of gems that you're sitting on as well. So as you can see, there are a ton of resources that you have that are currently untapped. Now, other things that you want to make sure that you're doing every day. Make sure that you're doing your daily hunts, because your daily hunts have the ability to give you extra stuff. Now, if you happen to miss it for a day or two, not a big deal, because as you can see here, you can store up to 3 charges for all intents and purposes. Oh, I don't want to begin it. Yeah. And then when you do that, you get 2 of these little tokens here. And with these tokens, you can exchange for a bunch of shit. Now, as a new player, I would start out with getting nuggets first, because these are going to be a very precious and limited resource, and unless you're buying I don't really want to get into the whale stuff of this game other than Mog Pass, but unless you're buying the weapon packs, these come few and far between. You get them from chaoses and all that good shit. So they're limited at first. So what I would do is I would start with these, and then eventually I would actually move towards tickets. Now, I personally do tickets now because I'm set on ingots. I have lots of ingots. I have lots of weapon books. And I'm getting to the point where if I don't want to, I won't even have to get those weapon packs anymore, because I'll just have that available to me. But for brand new free-to-play players, definitely start with the nuggets and then move on to the tickets once you get to a comfortable spot, because every ticket is a chance at a great weapon. And now, going back to all these weapons, there are, I believe, currently 5 different weapons. You have the 15 CP weapon, which currently, or excuse me, not currently. The 15 CP weapon, everyone's got it. It affects the character's skill 1. You absolutely need these passives. The 35 CP weapon, which, let me actually bring this up. I don't... Actually, there is a way to do this, to showcase this. Appearance. So, this is a perfect example of all his. Like, I believe this is his basic right here. This is going to be right here, his 15 CP. That is his base weapon. It affects his skill 1. Next, we have his 35 CP weapon, which affects his skill 2. After that is his EX weapon. And you could tell that it's an EX weapon because it has that shiny little thing behind it that looks kind of like a little shining star. So when you pull that, that's how you know you got his EX weapon. It'll also have 70 CP on it. The LD has the kind of galaxy looking look behind the weapon. That's going to be a 90 CP, and you only need this weapon for the passive. Once you max limit break it and level it up, get that passive, you sell the weapon, boom, you get some power stones back. And then lastly is the burst. Now the burst is really a commodity currently. It's not something that is absolutely required for characters to have, but it's still useful. Now, in order to use a character, you absolutely need their entire kit. There is absolutely no question. The only exception to the rule currently is the burst weapon. The burst weapon is something that, again, commodity, not necessary. It does add extra oomph, eventually will give you a bonus, but you can absolutely get by without it. And while I currently have every single burst, I'm pretty sure I have put out content that I didn't use a burst at all because I didn't need to, because again, it's just an added bonus that makes your character stronger. But the true prize, especially moving forward, are the LD weapons. That being said, brand new character, you still need to get the entire kit. Now, there are a few options. As you saw, you have, and granted, this comes with time. You're not going to be able to do this immediately. Power tokens here, they can be exchanged for any 10 CP weapon and 35 CP weapon that is currently available. Now, as you can see, I have been I haven't always luck sacked, so I haven't spent a lot, and every Christmas, at least this last Christmas, they gave us a shitload of these. Like, I think I gained well over 100 or 200 during the most recent Christmas experience, and I think last year as well I got a lot. And then from there, there's also going to be, where are they at? The EX tokens. When you have these, and eventually you'll get them, and the easiest way, of course, to get them would be with the premium Mog Pass, but there are certain things, certain times where you get these. It just takes time. You can also save up your daily hunt tokens to get these as well. But when you have at least 10 of these, you can pick from any current EX weapon that is in the game that you don't already have or have. If for whatever reason you want to say, and I would not recommend doing this because it's far more precious if you luck sack an LD weapon to use your EX tokens on their EX, so that way you conserve your gems and your tickets. For example, when Zandy comes, actually no, or okay, as an example, when Zandy comes, if I were to luck sack his LD weapons, then if I wanted to, I could turn around and just come to the EX shop and buy his EX weapon without having to bother it. And then I can buy his, you get his 15 CP weapon for free, and then I could also weapon token his 35 CP, as an example. Now, as a new player, you don't necessarily have that yet, but that is also why you can kind of just take your time with it and, you know, be patient, build up those gems, and just keep on going. Now, the other thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you are upgrading your summons. Now, to start off with doing that, here's what you have to do. You go down to the World of Illusions here, and towards the bottom, you're going to see the trials of and each summon that you can do. Now, in order to get all these guys buffed up, you got to get all of them to at least level 20. Once you get them to level 20, and it basically and by the way, this is also yet again more gems available to you as you complete them, and I think they also come with player missions that never go away, that when you're first complete. Yeah, pray forgive that interruption. Furion is losing his shit for who knows what. Anyway, once you get them to level 20, then you will have the ability to bring them to the ultimate summons. Now, when you hear people talk about do your boards, do your boards, do your boards, this is what we are talking about here. Now, first, to get to these later stages, you have to you start here, and then you get to the farmable stage, which is level 100. Now, I believe I can showcase Super Synergy. Yep, okay. Now, when you're doing these boards, it's absolutely crucial that you take advantage of your Super Synergy characters. Now, there are lots of guides out there on summon board farming. Those have not changed. They still function the exact same way, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. What I'm going to say here, again, is make sure you take advantage of this, because when you do this, when you do these, you're going to get what's called summon board points per character. Oh, wrong button. Let's see, for an example. Okay, we'll just pick one out. So you'll get these points, and the number up at the top here, the first number is the amount of Ifrit points that Edge has. The bottom number is how many wild points the character has. Now, wild points are basically, you get, if you're using a triple XP item, you're going to get 300 wild points instead of 100 wild points. Now, wild points can be used to any character, and as you can see here, for example, I went to town on the Bahamut one, and I have over 17,000 wild points. So basically, for another 2 characters, I don't even have to do the Bahamut farm for them. Now, these do a number of things for you. For one, they unlock powers for your characters. Now, I will show you what that looks like. They unlock passives. So for example, these are all the summon board passives that I currently have on my Edge. So when you do these, you not only get those passives, but you also unlock all of these stats, which is very important. Now, for example, to show you here, this is actually an easier way to look at it now that I think about it. Because of all the boards, these are all the stats over here that he has gained just from farming, just free bonuses, free upgrades to his stats, and makes him stronger. Now, the other thing that these give you is that each time you complete a character's board, you get 3 tickets, you get 5, I believe it's 5 armor tokens, and 300 gems. Now, consider the fact that there are over 100 characters with 10 summon boards. Again, that is 10 summon boards. 10 summon boards, 100 characters. We'll say for the sake of simple math, 10 boards, 100 characters. So that's already, what is it? 1,000? Yeah. Times 300 gems? That's what? 30,000 gems? Oh wait, no, I'm probably doing my math wrong, but you get the idea that that is a lot of gems to farm. That's why I say that you guys, when you're brand new, you're literally sitting on well over 1 million gems, probably even 2 million gems at this point, which that is all extremely helpful. Like, in that regard, you guys kind of have an advantage over somebody like me, because I have nothing to farm unless new content comes out. That's just the way it is for me. Now, in order to make your summon your summon board farming more bearable, there is something called the Mog Pass that's available, and I'll show you where that is. Hopefully I can get to it pretty quickly. Actually, I think I could just click here. I don't think I can actually see it. See? Nope, I can't see it. Okay, we're gonna have to go all the way back. So there's something called a Mog Pass. There's a premium version, and then there's a very basic version. Oh, so I can go here to show you. So $5 a month gets you all these bonuses. So the higher your character rank is, the more points you get when you're doing your summon boards. So I'm at the point where I can legitimately do each board 2 times per character and then just use wild points for the rest of it. And then I'm set. I'm good to go. So if you want to support the game for a minimum of $5, you can do that. I'm not going to cover the premium Mog Pass. You can read about it yourself. I mean, if you really want to do that, because that's not the point of this video. Now, next, I mentioned armor tokens. Now, at first, this is a finite resource, but at first, you are not going to have a ton of armor tokens. Me personally, because I've gotten some of those packs, annoyingly, I have this, and that's because I have an odd number, even number, but it's an odd number because it shouldn't look like that. Realistically, it should be divisible by 5, but I took a short break during the initial cater event because it just bored me. So you get these, and this is how you unlock all of their armor. Now these again, they're a finite resource, so make sure that you're using them sparingly at first. It takes 5 to get the 35 CP armor, which, as you can see, I have it. And you can tell that I have these passives because of that red check mark. Now, you cannot get the 90 CP armor unless you have the passive from the 35 CP armor, because it will completely block it out. It'll be, I believe the button is red until you unlock that passive. Now, this system works the exact same way as the weapons with the limit breaking and the leveling. It just uses a different kind of orb. It's the blue armor orbs instead of the power orbs, the red ones. Now, once these are done, you can get the high guard armors, but we're not going to talk too deeply on that because you're likely not going to get Lufenia done, and that's okay. Once again, it's completely fine. But when you finally do, you get 20 per character, and then you can use those. And in order to get these, you have to have unlocked the realized passive of the armor. So you have to take all that to purple in order to get it. Purple means you've realized it and you've made it 3 out of 3 because you fed it 3 armor ingots along with more stuff. Now, next thing we're going to talk about is refining your stuff. Now, I've already mentioned how when you're doing your hunts and stuff that you should prioritize getting the nuggets. And there are guides on how this refined system works, so I'm not going to go too deeply on it, but this is where you go and when you want to use your pages and your nuggets to make something, and it requires 20 of each in order to do it. And as you can see here, I'm in a very good place with my resources here. And in order to get it, again, it takes 20. One book will allow you to realize a weapon. I'm not going to showcase that completely, but I will show you what that looks like when you're realizing a weapon. Go further down. We'll use Sabin as the example. So if I wanted to realize this weapon, I come here. The realize tab is already up because it's already completely maxed and broken. There's really nothing else I can do to the weapon. So then what happens is I use the book, and then it will have me confirm, and then what happens, it turns into this right here, and it'll be 0 out of 3, goes right back to level 1. The CP increases, and then you get an ingot back. So what some people do early on, and I would not recommend this, but like for example, super whales, they'll get as many dupes as they can, and then they just get those armor, they realize it to 0 out of 3, and then they sell it just to get that nugget, get those nuggets back. which again, that's not something that I recommend doing as a new player because you have so many resources available to you that it's realistically not the best idea. Excuse me. Now, the other thing I'm going to mention is that you should absolutely 100% upgrade your stash. Now, I do not think that this is something that I can show you what it looks like at the moment. Let me see. I don't think I can. Is it in the shop? Might be item shop. But when you start off, I believe you have 500 slots. Yes, okay, cool. So yeah, when you first start off, you have about 500 slots. It might have upgraded to 700. I don't remember the exact amount. However, for 100 gems, you increase your storage limit by 5. I have already maxed this out because it is absolutely worth it. Now, the reason why I say do this is because it makes your farming life more efficient, and it's not as bad right now because of the way we get artifacts. They've reduced it, but some time ago it was rough. Now the other thing too is if you build up a huge stash and you're pulling and your pulls aren't going so good, you're gonna fill up your stash very quickly. Then you have to waste time going back and selling it. That is the reason why I recommend doing it. You don't have to. It's not gonna like end your life if you don't. But my recommendation to, you know, simplify your life and make it so that you have more room to work with, in my opinion, do it. Again, not something that you absolutely have to follow. As I mentioned earlier, I'm not the end-all be-all. This is just something that I would do to make my life easier. And the other thing with this is make sure that you take advantage of these item sales. For whatever reason, they don't just have it as a permanent thing, but during campaigns, you will have a better time buying these because they will be cheaper to buy. Because otherwise, you're paying 50 gems per. And again, it does cost gems, but it is worth it because it makes your farming life much easier. I exclusively use the triple items whenever I'm doing the co-ops. Excuse me. Now, that being said, it's also good to take advantage of the Carbuncle World of Illusion when it is available. Because this is essentially the only way, and it uses, I think, similar to this stage. This is the only way to upgrade your Chocobo and your Sylph to max level, which currently for them is level 20. I don't think that they're going to be getting a higher level than that. But yeah, the World of Illusions Carbuncle allows you to get the resources needed to upgrade them, and it gives you the magic pot, and it's also typically part of your Chocobo missions, which reminds me, do your Chocobo missions. When you hear people say to do Chocobo missions, you go to that missions button tab and then come here, the top left, and there's a series of one-time missions that you can do. And you want to make sure that you do these because you get some great rewards for them. You get tickets, you get gems, again, more free gems, and the most important thing from this is getting the pages to make your books. Once you clear the bingo card, because that's essentially how it works, is like a bingo card. As you see here, I've already cleared one line and gotten the reward that it shows right here, plus I've gotten that 400 gems. So again, another source of gems. Now, you'll give me one moment. I am simply reviewing my notes just to make sure that I am not missing anything or forgetting anything, because otherwise that will make this all for naught. Oh, there is one thing that I did miss. Now, when you are starting out, you absolutely need to do your co-ops. The most efficient one to farm is going to be the Cosmos version of the co-op. Now, this is what we mean when you say co-op. The co-op means that you team up with 2 other people, or conversely, you do it by yourself, and then you use your bells. The bells right here, it's a maximum of 5, and it takes roughly, I think, 2 hours for a bell to charge. And this is where I say that you should absolutely find friends You can co-op with randos if you like their play style. If they're good, you know, they carried you, follow them. Maybe they follow you back. I think personally have a few slots available that you could follow me. Now you want friend units because that gives you a 5-turn support, and it frees up one of your characters to conserve, and it allows you to use another character that is typically considered really OP in it to a degree and helps you out. For example, support Immediatelian. When you have a friend that can delete turns for 5 turns, that is extremely valuable. Now, another thing to cover would be gil farming, because gil is an infinite resource in that you can basically never ending farm it. Now, when I say also do the co-ops, you want to do the co-ops at a bare minimum to clear out the co-op shop. The co-op shop will have basically tickets, gems, crystals, things that you need to upgrade, and then when you clear it out, this is how I farm my gil specifically, is I will max out and then just buy higher guard orbs or power orbs and sell them. Because as you can see, I am nearly capped on gold, and that's because I'm constantly doing that. Like when I'm farming for my artifacts and I don't want those to go to waste, that's what I use them on. And I sell that, I make my gil back. Now, the other thing to consider is artifacts and their passives are not absolutely required. They are extremely useful, and there are guides on how to do those. And actually, I take that back. Some of those are dated too. Now, we have received changes to where we can do 10 at a time. So I'll go ahead and show you as an example. Like this is absolutely not required to play the game. Like if you look at Stimpy, he runs his Lufenias, and more often than not, his characters do not have any artifact passives whatsoever. But here's what it looks like when you do get artifact passives. If you hit the auto button and you have all those resources, you can max out a bunch of them together at a time. So you do 10 at a time, and with Mog Pass, I have guaranteed reds that show up. And these are the artifact passives that you can get to boost your characters. I personally love going for these because I like to maximize. Oh, I even got a best in slot one. That's nice. And then what happens here is because you get more than you can hold when you do 10 at a time, you can hold up to 7. You get the option to then swap out for the passive that you want to keep. And once you confirm, you can't go back. And boom, that's the artifacts. Now, the last thing that I'm going to cover is you should absolutely, this is to a degree a social game. You know, this is a very welcoming and fun community. You should absolutely join some discords and get help. Matter of fact, join my Discord. We help people all the time. We've helped people get on their feet when they're lost, whether they're new or even some experienced players that are struggling to get through things. We have helped a ton of people out. So highly recommend finding Discords to join. There's a lot of them. And they're not going anywhere anytime soon unless this game, God forbid, goes away. So that's going to bring this video to a conclusion. I do apologize for the length, but I wanted to show and share information that could help make life easier for you new players coming in, because we want this community to grow. We want this game to last for as long as possible, and I wanted to put my hand in to help out because that's what I'm here to do. I love helping people out. So I hope you guys enjoyed this content. I pray forgive the stuttering and such. I am differently abled, as some of you know. And thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share, all that good shit if you feel like this helps you out and can help other people out. And this is Nasty Asti signing out.